15 northern towns offering free land, but winters are brutal. You know what's insane? There are towns in America that will literally give you free land. Not cheap land. Not discounted land, free. As in $0. You show up, they hand you a plot, you build a house. Congratulations, you're a landowner. The catch? You have to survive winters where the temperature hits 40 below zero, where your car won't start for 3 months, where stepping outside feels like being stabbed by 1,000 tiny knives made of frozen air, where moderate snowfall means defeat overnight. These towns are so desperate to stop population decline that they're basically bribing people to move there with free real estate. And the bribe has to be that good because living through a northern winter is genuinely miserable if you're not prepared for it. So today we're going through 15 northern towns that will give you free or nearly free land, if you're willing to endure winters that make Antarctica look appealing. Because someone needs to document the fact that homesteading isn't dead. It just moved to places where frostbite is a legitimate daily concern. Let's get into it. Here's why these programs exist and why they're actually kind of genius in a desperate way. Northern rural towns are dying. Young people leave for warmer cities with more jobs. Populations decline, schools close, businesses shut down, tax bases shrink, and towns enter death. Spirals where decline causes more decline. But these towns own land, empty lots, abandoned properties. Land that's worth nothing if nobody lives there. So they figured out they could use that worthless land as bait to attract new residents. The programs usually work like this. You get a free or very cheap lot. You have to build a house within a certain time frame, usually a year or two. The house has to meet minimum size requirements, usually around 1,000 square feet. You have to live there for a certain number of years, often 3 to 5. And boom, you own land. It sounds amazing. And it is, if you can handle the trade-off. The trade-off being that you're living in places where winter lasts 6 to 7 months, where the high temperature in January is maybe 10 degrees, where heating bills can hit for $100 a month, where seasonal depression is just called living here. These aren't scams. These are real programs run by real towns that genuinely want people to move there. They're just honest about the fact that most people won't because most people hate being cold and miserable for half the year. But if you're remote work enabled, if you love winter sports, if you don't mind isolation, or if you're just broke and desperate for any path to homeownership, these programs are legitimate opportunities. You just need to understand what you're signing up for. Number 15. Marquette, Michigan. Starting with the Upper Peninsula town that's actually pretty nice if you ignore the 150 inches of snow per year. Marquette and surrounding areas have had various land incentive programs. You're looking at cheap land, sometimes free for specific development. The catch is you're in the UP, where winter is intense. Average January high is around 20 degrees. Lake effect snow buries everything. Marquette is northern Michigan tech, some outdoor culture, and Lake Superior access. It's actually functional and kind of charming. But winter is no joke. You will shovel snow constantly. Your heating bill will be high. And seasonal affective disorder is real. The town's trying to attract remote workers and retirees who don't mind cold. If you ski, snowmobile, or ice fish, it's paradise. If you hate winter, it's hell. Number 14. Lincoln, Kansas. Technically not as far north, but Lincoln and some Kansas towns have offered free lots. Lincoln offered free residential lots if you build within a year. Kansas winters aren't as brutal as Minnesota, but they're still cold, windy, bleak. Average January temperatures in the 20s. Lincoln is tiny, maybe 1,000 people. It's rural Kansas. If you want isolation and cheap living with some winter discomfort, it works. If you need culture or jobs, it doesn't. The free land is real, but you're in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. Number 13. Curtis, Nebraska. Curtis offered free lots for years to attract people. Nebraska winters are cold and windy. Curtis is a tiny Nebraska town that will give you land if you build. January averages in the low 20s. Not as cold as North Dakota, but still unpleasant. Wind makes it worse. Very rural. Very isolated. The land is the only card they have to play. It works for a few people, not many. Number 12. Marne, Iowa. Iowa towns have done free land programs, and Marne is one. Marne offered free lots with building requirements. Iowa winters are cold. January averages in the 20s. Snow, ice, wind. Marne is tiny. Like 100 people tiny. If you want extreme rural living and don't mind Iowa winters, it's an option. Most people do mind. The isolation is the bigger issue than the winter. Number 11. New Richland, Minnesota. Minnesota towns have offered land incentives, and New Richland is an example. New Richland offered free or very cheap lots. Minnesota winter is serious. January highs in the teens. Lows well below zero. Snow from November through March. New Richland is southern Minnesota, so not as bad as up north. But still cold. Still snowy. Still Minnesota winter, which is legitimately harsh. If you can handle Minnesota cold and rural living, the free land is appealing. Number 10. Harmony, Minnesota. Harmony also offered land programs. Further north in Minnesota, where winters get worse, Harmony offered free lots with building requirements. January temperatures regularly below zero. Heavy snow. Long winters. This is proper Minnesota cold. Harmony is Amish country, which is interesting. But it's also very rural, very cold, and very isolated. If you want a homestead modern style and brutal cold, Harmony offers the opportunity. Just understand what brutal cold actually means. Number 9. Mankato, Kansas. Mankato offered free residential lots to anyone who'd build. Kansas, but cold Kansas. Mankato is tiny. Maybe 800 people. Northwest Kansas, where winter is cold and windy. January in the 20s. Wind chill makes it worse. Mankato is isolated prairie town. The free land is desperate attempt to stop population decline. It works for a few people who want that isolation. Not many. Number 8. Flagler, Colorado. Technically not super far north, but high elevation makes winter brutal. Flagler offered free land programs. Eastern Colorado high plains. Winter is cold, windy, and bleak. January temperatures in the 30s, but wind chill drops it significantly. Flagler is tiny and isolated. Hours from Denver. If you want rural Colorado mountain-adjacent living with brutal winter wind, free land is available. Most people can't handle the isolation. Number 7. Bemidji, Minnesota. Bemidji area has had land incentive programs. Northern Minnesota, where winter is genuinely severe. Bemidji is on a lake in northern Minnesota. January highs around 15 degrees. Lows well below zero. Heavy snow. Winter from October through April. Bemidji has Bemidji State University, so it's not completely dead. But winter is intense. You need a garage or your car won't start. Heating bills are $300 to $400 monthly. Seasonal depression is widespread. Bemidji is where Paul Bunyan froze, but you might too. Number 6. Beatrice, Nebraska. Beatrice had land programs. Southeast Nebraska, where winter is cold and bleak. Beatrice offered free or cheap lots with building requirements. January temperatures in the 20s and 30s. Not the coldest, but still winter. Wind makes it worse. Beatrice has about 12,000 people, so it's not tiny. Some infrastructure. But it's still rural Nebraska with winter and isolation. The free land attracts some people. The winter and isolation push many away. Net result is slow continued decline. Beatrice is where Nebraska practicality meets free real estate. Number 5. Duluth, Minnesota. Duluth area has had development incentives. Lake Superior means extreme weather. Duluth is a real city with about 85,000 people. But winter is brutal. Lake effect snow. January highs around 20. Wind off the lake makes it colder. Snow from October through April. Duluth has culture, jobs, and infrastructure. It's actually a decent place to live if you can handle the winter. And the winter is genuinely challenging. Some programs have offered land or housing incentives in Duluth area. The city wants growth, but winter is the limiting factor. Duluth is where actual city meets brutal lake winter. Number 4. Minot, North Dakota. North Dakota towns have had land programs. Minot gets very cold. Minot and surrounding areas have offered land incentives. January average high is around 15 degrees. Lows frequently 20 below or colder. Wind chill can hit 40 or 50 below. Marne has Air Force Base, which provides some economic stability. But winter is genuinely dangerous. You can get frostbite in minutes. Your car needs a block heater, or it won't start. The free or cheap land is compensation for living somewhere where going outside can literally injure you for several months. Marne is where Air Force meets Arctic temperatures. Number 3. Dickinson, North Dakota. Oil boom brought some growth, but winters are still brutal. Dickinson and surrounding towns have offered land deals. January temperatures regularly below zero. Wind chill makes it life-threatening. Winter lasts 6 months minimum. Dickinson had oil boom, which helped economy. But that's boom and bust. The winter is constant. You're living in conditions that approach survival challenge levels. Heating costs are insane. For $100+ per month in winter, you need serious cold weather gear. Remote starts are mandatory. Dickinson is where oil money meets hypothermia risk. Number 2. International Falls. Minnesota. International Falls is literally America's icebox. They market it that way. International Falls area has had various incentive programs. January average highs around 9 degrees. Lows 20 to 30 below. Wind chill 50 below is common. This is the Canadian border. Winter is extreme. You're not just cold. You're in danger if you're outside too long. Schools close when it hits 40 below because buses won't start and kids could die waiting. The town embraces the cold with winter festivals and tourism. But living there year-round is challenging in ways most people can't imagine. International Falls is where winter is the town's identity and curse. At number 1. The most extreme example of free land meeting brutal winter. We have Alaska programs like Nome area. Alaska has various programs offering cheap or free land for homesteading. Nome is on the Bering Sea. Winter temperatures regularly below zero. Wind makes it unbearable. Isolation is extreme. Nome has about 3,500 people. It's only accessible by plane or boat. No roads connect it to anywhere. Heating costs are astronomical because everything's imported. Winter is dark and brutal. Alaska homesteading programs offer land, but you're signing up for survival-level conditions. This isn't cute cabin living. This is I might actually die if I'm not careful territory. Nome is where free land meets actually dangerous winter conditions. So what does all this mean? First, these programs are real and they work for some people. If you're remote work enabled, if you're retired, if you want isolation and can handle extreme cold, free or cheap land is available. Second, the winter isn't exaggerated. These places are genuinely cold in ways that people from moderate climates can't imagine. Below zero isn't occasional. It's daily for months. Wind chill can make it deadly. Third, heating costs are real and significant. Budget $300 to $500 monthly for heating in the worst places. More if your house isn't well insulated. Fourth, seasonal affective disorder is widespread in these areas. 6 months of cold and gray skies affects mental health. Plan for that. And fifth, these towns are desperate. They're offering land because population decline threatens their existence. They genuinely want people to move there. They're not hiding anything about the winter. They're just hoping some people don't mind. So there you have it. 15 northern towns where you can get free or nearly free land if you're willing to embrace winters that would make most people weep. This isn't for everyone. Actually, it's not for most people. Most people hate being cold. Most people hate isolation. Most people want convenience and moderate climates. But for the people who can handle it, this is one of the last legitimate paths to affordable land ownership in America. You won't get free land in California or Florida. You will get it in North Dakota and Minnesota and Alaska if you're willing to pay the winter price. Some people thrive in these conditions. They love winter sports. They don't mind isolation. They embrace the quiet and the cold. For them, these programs are perfect. Others move there, make it 6 months, and flee back to warmer climates. The towns know this. The programs usually require you to stay several years specifically because they know many people quit. If you're considering this, visit in January, not summer.January. Experience the actual conditions. If you can handle a week in January, you might survive long term. If you hate that week, don't move there. So here's my question for you. How much money would someone have to pay you to move somewhere where the high temperature in January is 5 degrees? Is free land enough? Or would you need more compensation for that level of cold? Let me know in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious where people draw the line on winter tolerability. And if you enjoyed this tour of America's frozen free land opportunities, maybe subscribe. We cover housing markets, economic desperation, and the extreme measures people take to own property. Someone has to document the fact that homesteading still exists in America. It just requires accepting frostbite as a lifestyle risk. Might as well be me.